What if the greatest secret of the ancient masters was not meditation, not sacred scriptures, and not mystical rituals? What if their greatest secret was something far more primal, something that every human being carries within their own body, yet almost no one understands? Your life force. Across thousands of years, from the Himalayan yogis of India, to the Taoist sages of China, to the desert mystics and spiritual alchemists of ancient traditions, there was one discipline they all quietly practiced. They guarded their life force, not out of fear, not out of repression, but out of understanding. Because to them, life force was not just biological energy, it was the raw power of consciousness itself. Yet in the modern world, this idea sounds strange, almost primitive. We have been taught that energy is simply calories, that desire is something to endlessly satisfy, that pleasure must always be maximized. But the ancient masters saw something very different. They observed that most human beings leak their life force constantly, through uncontrolled impulses, through endless stimulation, through emotional chaos, through unconscious habits. And because of this, the average person never realizes their true potential. The forgotten understanding of life force. In ancient India, this life force was called Prana. In Taoist traditions, it was known as Qi. In certain esoteric Western traditions, it was referred to as vital essence. Different cultures, different words, but the same understanding. The human being is not just a physical organism. You are a living field of energy. Every thought consumes energy. Every emotion moves energy. Every action directs energy. Your life force is the currency of your consciousness. And where that energy flows, your reality begins to shape. The ancient masters observed something extraordinary. When life force is scattered, the mind becomes restless. When life force is preserved, the mind becomes powerful. This is why the deepest spiritual practices were never only about gaining knowledge. They were about conserving energy, because a scattered mind cannot awaken. The great leakage of human energy. If you observe modern life carefully, you will see something strange. Human beings today are more stimulated than ever before. Endless entertainment, endless scrolling, endless desires. Yet at the same time, people feel exhausted, mentally drained, emotionally unstable, spiritually empty. Why? Because stimulation consumes life force. The brain is constantly processing information. The nervous system is constantly reacting, but very little energy is being restored. Ancient practitioners understood that energy must be directed consciously. If it is not directed, it will be consumed by the lowest impulses of the mind. This is why disciplines like celibacy, breath control, fasting, silence, and meditation were practiced, not as moral rules, but as energetic technologies. The strategic intelligence of the masters. Awakened masters were not naive. They deeply understood the mechanics of the human mind. They knew that desire is one of the most powerful forces within the human body. But they also discovered something profound. Desire contains energy, and when that energy is mastered, it becomes creativity, it becomes intelligence, it becomes spiritual power. The Taoist masters spoke about transforming sexual essence into spiritual vitality. The yogis described the awakening of Kundalini energy. The monks of many traditions practice strict discipline to prevent the loss of vital energy. To modern ears, this may sound like suppression, but in truth, It was transformation. Instead of letting life force flow outward through impulse, they redirected it inward. And when energy flows inward, consciousness expands. Why most people never reach their potential? Look around at the world. You will notice something. Most people live their entire lives reacting to emotions, reacting to desires, reacting to external stimuli. Very few people ever develop mastery over their inner energy, and without energy mastery, true awareness cannot stabilize. This is why spiritual awakening often appears temporary for many seekers. They may have moments of insight, moments of clarity, moments of peace. But without disciplined life force management, those states quickly disappear. The mind returns to chaos. Because awakening is not only about realization, it is about sustaining the energy required to remain awake. The ancient masters understood this deeply. Life force and consciousness expansion. When life force is preserved, something remarkable begins to happen. The mind becomes clearer, thoughts slow down, perception sharpens, creativity increases. Emotional reactions become easier to observe, and slowly, awareness begins to separate from the mind. This is why many ancient practitioners experienced heightened intuition. Their nervous system was no longer overloaded with constant stimulation. Energy that was previously scattered began to gather, and when energy gathers, consciousness deepens. This is the foundation of true inner power, not control over others, but mastery over your own energy. The inner alchemy of the masters. The ancient traditions often spoke in symbolic language. They described inner transformation as alchemy, turning base metals into gold. But the real alchemy was happening inside the human body. Lower impulses were being transformed into higher awareness. Raw desire was being refined into creative force. Biological energy was being elevated into spiritual clarity. This process required patience, discipline, and deep self-awareness, which is why the masters lived differently from ordinary society. They simplified their lives. They reduced unnecessary distractions. They cultivated silence. Not because they rejected the world, but because they understood something most people never realize. Attention is sacred, and attention is powered by life force. The strategic advantage of guarding life force. When life force is conserved, a person gains something extremely rare. Presence. A quiet intensity begins to emerge. Your words carry more weight. Your thoughts become sharper. Your actions become intentional. People may not even understand why, but they can feel the difference, because life force creates magnetism. The ancient masters often appeared calm, yet incredibly powerful, not because they were forcing anything, but because their energy was unified. Nothing was leaking, nothing was wasted. All of their life force was available to consciousness. This is why their presence alone could influence others. A modern misunderstanding. Today, the idea of guarding life force is often misunderstood. Some think it means rejecting pleasure. Others think it means extreme asceticism. But the real teaching was never about punishment. It was about awareness. The masters did not blindly suppress their nature. They studied it. They observed how energy moved within them, and gradually, they learned how to guide it. This is the difference between repression and mastery. Repression creates tension. Mastery creates freedom. The hidden power within you. Here is the truth most people never hear. Your life force is your greatest resource, greater than money, greater than status, greater than external success, because every achievement, every insight, every transformation requires energy. And if your energy is constantly leaking, your potential will always remain limited. But if you begin to guard your life force consciously, something incredible happens. Your awareness strengthens. Your discipline increases. Your mind becomes quieter. And slowly, you begin to feel a new kind of power rising within you. Not the loud power of ego, but the silent power of presence. The ancient masters did not guard their life force because they feared the world. They guarded it because they understood the immense potential hidden within human energy. They knew that consciousness can only rise as high as the energy that sustains it. This is why awakening was never accidental. It was cultivated, protected, refined. And now the real question is not whether this wisdom is true. The real question is, what would happen if you began to treat your life force as sacred? What would happen if you stopped leaking your energy into unconscious habits? What would happen if you directed your energy toward awareness, creativity, and purpose? Because the moment you begin guarding your life force, you stop living as a reaction to the world, and you begin living as a conscious creator within it. The ancient masters knew this secret. Your life force is not just energy, it is the fire of your consciousness. And the moment you learn to protect that fire, your entire reality begins to change.